a drought has escalated, sunk an entire city into the underworld.
Izel was chosen?
To close the gates, he can't do it alone.
If you fail, mankind.
When Onyx Equinox first arrived, it stood out as something rare and ambitious, an animated series deeply rooted in Mesoamerican mythology, yet told through the energetic, emotional lens of modern storytelling. Created by Sofia Alexander and produced by Crunchyroll Studios, the series explored a mythological world filled with gods, sacrifices, and destiny, blending ancient culture with a contemporary animation style. It wasn't just another fantasy show, it was a celebration of Latin American history and mythology that rarely gets this kind of attention on a global stage. From its announcement, Onyx Equinox carried the weight of expectation as a culturally rich, action-packed story that dared to be different. The series followed a young Aztec boy named Izel, whose life is shattered when his sister is sacrificed by his own people to appease the gods. Struggling to understand the cruelty of the divine and human world alike, Izel is chosen by the gods themselves to close the 5 gates of the underworld before they destroy humanity. Thrust into a brutal world of monsters, betrayal, and divine politics, Izel must grow from a broken child into humanity's reluctant champion. What makes this premise so compelling is its emotional core, the story of a boy who doesn't believe in the gods, yet is forced to serve them, becoming a symbol of resilience in a world that constantly demands sacrifice. The visual design of Onyx Equinox immediately set it apart. The animation took clear inspiration from traditional Mesoamerican art, mixing bright, earthy tones with striking geometric shapes. Temples, jungles, and underworld realms were depicted with an almost sacred attention to detail, filled with glyphs, symbols, and architecture that reflected real-world references from Aztec, Maya, and Zapotec cultures. The creature designs stood out as well. Demons and gods alike were rendered with terrifying beauty, often combining animalistic and divine traits in ways that felt both alien and authentic. Every frame carried a sense of respect toward the cultures that inspired it, making it visually distinct among modern Western animation. As for the tone, Onyx Equinox was unapologetically mature. It did not shy away from violence, blood, or existential despair. It explored harsh realities about faith, morality, and destiny, often confronting its characters and viewers with difficult questions about the nature of sacrifice and belief. Izel's journey, though set in a world of gods and monsters, mirrored a deeply human struggle, finding meaning in suffering and learning to take control of one's fate. This emotional depth, paired with action-driven storytelling, gave the series a unique balance between mythological grandeur and grounded character drama. The supporting cast enriched the story even further. Characters like Yautl, the jaguar god tasked with guiding Izel, embodied both menace and mentorship, serving as a constant reminder of how unpredictable divine beings could be. Then there was Yoon, Kayan, Zionia, and Xanastaku, each representing different tribes and perspectives on faith and duty. Their interactions with Izel weren't just about teamwork but about conflicting ideologies. Through them, the show explored unity among divided peoples, showing how humans, despite being fragile, could still stand together against forces far greater than themselves. When the trailer first dropped, it generated a strong reaction. Viewers were intrigued by the dark tone, striking visuals, and mythological depth. For fans of anime-style storytelling, this was a refreshing shift, a show that looked and felt like anime but told a story from an entirely different cultural heritage. The series quickly became a talking point among animation fans who were eager to see representation of Latin American mythology in a medium long dominated by European and Asian influences. The trailer's emphasis on emotional intensity and epic stakes signaled that Onyx Equinox wasn't just another fantasy adventure, it was a deeply cultural narrative with real weight behind it. When the series premiered, it drew a passionate following. Many viewers praised its authenticity, its daring themes, and its willingness to explore darker aspects of mythology often left untouched in mainstream animation. The decision to have both English and Spanish dubs, with voice actors who understood the cultural context, added an extra layer of respect to the production. The creators didn't just want to tell a myth, they wanted to reclaim and reimagine a part of history that rarely gets seen in popular media. However, Onyx Equinox also faced its share of challenges. Some audiences were unprepared for the level of brutality or mature storytelling, expecting a more conventional fantasy adventure. Others pointed out that the pacing sometimes struggled under the weight of its ambitious world building. But despite mixed reactions, the overall consensus was clear: Onyx Equinox was bold, original, and culturally significant. It opened doors for more diverse mythologies to enter the animated mainstream and proved that audiences were ready for stories beyond the familiar pantheons of Greek, Norse, or Japanese legends. The series' creator, Sofia Alexander, became an inspiring figure in animation. Her vision was deeply personal. She had spoken about wanting to showcase Latin American mythology in a way that resonated emotionally while honoring its origins. She worked closely with historians and cultural consultants to ensure that even the smallest details, from costumes to rituals, carried meaning. This dedication showed through in every episode, and even viewers who weren't familiar with the source material could feel the care behind it. In the months following its release, Onyx Equinox developed a devoted fanbase online. Discussions, art, and theories flourished around the show's characters and mythological interpretations. Many fans expressed appreciation for how the series treated indigenous myths not as exotic curiosities but as living, breathing stories filled with human emotion. The representation it offered of characters with brown skin, dark hair, and cultural depth meant a lot to communities that rarely saw themselves portrayed this way in animation. As the episodes unfolded, Onyx Equinox dove deeper into themes of faith, destiny, and rebellion. The relationship between Izel and the gods became increasingly strained, blurring the lines between divine justice and cruelty. Each gate he encountered brought him closer not only to the end of his mission but to understanding his own strength. The journey wasn't just physical, it was emotional and philosophical. By the time the finale arrived, Izel had transformed from a fearful boy into a defiant figure who stood toe-to-toe with gods, demanding accountability for their treatment of humanity. The animation, while occasionally rough in some sequences due to budget constraints, still managed to deliver powerful visuals during the most emotional and action-heavy moments. The climactic battles, glowing runes, and celestial landscapes gave the show an otherworldly beauty that matched its mythological roots. The sound design and music added even more atmosphere, mixing traditional instruments with modern orchestration to create an experience that felt both ancient and cinematic. Even after its finale, fans continued to speculate about the story's future. Many hoped for a second season to explore new mythological arcs, unanswered questions, and the fates of surviving characters. Though official confirmation never came, the interest in Onyx Equinox hasn't faded. It remains one of those unique shows that, while short-lived, left a lasting impression because of its courage to tell a story few others dared to tell. Looking back, Onyx Equinox represents an important milestone in the evolution of Western animation. It proved that there's a global hunger for stories rooted in diverse mythologies and cultures. It showed that representation doesn't just mean putting new faces on screen, it means letting those faces carry their own histories, languages, and spiritual legacies. The series managed to make ancient myths feel fresh and urgent again, translating their timeless struggles into something modern audiences could connect with. The emotional resonance of Izel's story continues to stand out. His journey from grief to empowerment mirrors the universal human desire to overcome despair and define one's destiny. Even though Onyx Equinox is steeped in divine conflicts and apocalyptic stakes, at its core, it's about human resilience. It's about the idea that even when the gods turn their backs, humanity can still rise, adapt, and fight for its own survival. In the broader landscape of animation, Onyx Equinox also contributed to a growing trend of culturally specific storytelling. It joined a wave of shows that celebrate non-Western traditions, paving the way for other creators to draw from their heritage without fear of alienating audiences. The positive reception it received from fans around the world sent a clear message: diversity in storytelling doesn't divide, it enriches. Even years after its premiere, discussions about Onyx Equinox continue to surface whenever people talk about underrated animated series that deserve more recognition. Its bold mix of cultural authenticity, emotional storytelling, and mythological intensity ensures that it remains a memorable piece of animation history. It stands as proof that there's still so much mythology, history, and beauty left to explore beyond the mainstream. Ultimately, Onyx Equinox isn't just a story about gods and mortals, it's a story about identity, resilience, and the eternal struggle between despair and hope. It's a reminder that even the smallest spark of humanity can challenge the greatest powers, and that belief in oneself and in others is sometimes stronger than any divine force. For many fans, that message is what makes the series unforgettable, long after its final episode faded to black.